Photokina was scheduled for the end of May, and Canon was due to announce the R5. Will Panasonic, Sony, and Nikon make an announcement in May? Let's get into it.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
Hi, I'm Simon, and this is The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, please like and subscribe, as it really helps grow my channel. And all the links to everything I talk about in this video, I placed them in the description down below. Panasonic announced it would reduce their workforce. There's no indication how this will affect the mirrorless or cinema camera divisions. More details is likely to come on May the 6th with their earnings announcement. Don't expect the GH6 to be announced this month. Panasonic will be announcing the GH6 later this year. The current global climate is the reason for the delay and the trigger for the staff reduction. Current rumors have the GH6 sporting the Sony 41 megapixel sensor, the same sensor rumored to be in the mythical Sony A7S III. Photokina was to be held this month, between the 27th and the 30th. This is when we expect Canon to announce the EOS R5, and there's a chance Sony will make an introduction and drop an alpha camera, at least announce one. Nikon has been quiet working on the Z5 and the Z6. The Z5 is a low-priced full-frame camera designed to compete against the Canon RP, while the Z8 is a high-end camera designed to compete against either the R5 or a high megapixel version of the 5D RS. Could either of these make the light of day by the end of this month? Perhaps. They were scheduled to be announced this year, but with too little information being leaked from Nikon, it's anyone's guess what we might see from Canon this month, but keep an eye on Nikon. Sorry, I said Canon, I meant Nikon. Sony customers were hoping, and myself, were hoping for a nod at the April the 30th virtual press conference for at least some sort of nod or mention of a new alpha camera, like Canon did the previous week with the EOS R5. Alpha fans have been very patient. They've been waiting 5 years for an update to the A7S III. Sony clearly stated that the third iteration of the A7S would go beyond the expectations of their customers. Sony rumors had the A7S III pegged for release between February, which is past, and April, which is also just past. It's no wonder that so many customers were disappointed by the lack of any nod at their virtual press conference. A press conference that lacked any emotion or excitement. But Sony fans don't feel dejected by the lack of any announcement. It's strongly believed that we will see the A7S III this year and announced before the end of June. We might even be getting an not A7S IV, the A7 IV before the end of May. But this camera was released less than 2 years ago, so I'm not sure how valid this rumor is. So has Sony parked the A7S line? Well, no. Aoki Yusuke, a Sony executive, confirmed that the A7S III is in development. And he confirmed this to a Chinese camera website in August of 2019, so it's not that old. The latest rumor indicates that it will be announced by the end of June this year. But again, we'll see. This year is unlike any other year. Okay, so we are getting the A7S III and the A7 IV this year? Well, that's what the rumors tell us. And sure, why not? Some viewers don't believe we will get both of these cameras in the same year. But Canon has plans to announce 7 cameras this year. The R5, R6, a high megapixel version of the 5DS, a low budget RF, the M5, they've already announced the T8i, and they've already released the 1DX Mark III, and the M5 Mark II is coming out later this year. Canon is starting to learn its lessons. They started teasing of the EOS R5 in late January. Canon rumors said the R5 would have 8K RAW. Remember how funny that sounded back then? And then they went on to say it would have 4K 120, 12 frames per second mechanical, and 20 frames per second electronic, along with being the first camera to have IBIS. Hardly anyone believed the Canon rumor, or even my video that accompanied it. Even the most reservedly optimistic felt the information was way too good to be true. It was like when Apple announced the first iPhone. Few in the industry believed it was going to happen. RIM stated, yeah, definitely not going to happen. There's no way they could do that. And Microsoft openly mocked the idea of a $600 iPhone. Where are these companies now? Well, RIM is a shadow of itself. Microsoft doesn't have a cellular division anymore. And Nokia, I think they're around, but I don't know if they're making phones anymore. You see, when the iPhone was released, people waited in lines for days to get it. There were shortages for weeks, even months. It disrupted the cell phone market, and it never looked the same. It's easy to forgive those early doubters. Even I question the probability of a camera with such features. I openly stated in my videos that it's hard to believe, but Canon rumors said the rumor was considered fact. And boy, this got me even more hate mail when I repeated that. Think about it. The EOS R, released just a year earlier, the first mirrorless full-frame camera from Canon, was mediocre at best compared to the competition. The R5 would have IBIS, 8K video, RAW, 4K 120, high frame rates between 12 and 20 frames per second. It felt like the perfect April Fool's joke. In fact, if I was going to do an April Fool's video, that's the camera I would have come up with. Then, a few weeks later, Canon issued a development announcement. Now, I was lucky. A source gave me a heads up on this one, saying the R5 would be announced around midnight. I quickly published a video stating so, and it was my highest viewed video up until recently. Canon stated in that development announcement that the R5 would indeed have 8K video, IBIS 4K 20, as well as announce a few lenses. This changed everything. To most, the R5 was already exceeding their expectations, to borrow words from Sony. Others used Canon's marketing speak, and they said that, yeah, 8K video, yeah, but it would be time-lapse, and posited that the video would use motion JPEG. Yeah, I didn't believe it. Canon for years had crippled their cameras though, and many believed that the EOS R5 would be a shell of what was announced. 8K, sure, but again, it's going to be time-lapse video. We'll only get 2 minutes of record time, and it will have a significant crop without autofocus. And 120, 4K 120, a huge crop with no autofocus as well. Then, 3 weeks later, Canon Australia made another announcement on the R5 addressing 8K video. It's like they were listening to us. They stated that the R5 would indeed have 8K video with IBIS and dual pixel autofocus in all 8K modes and without a crop. People started to come around. Popular YouTube channels started to state that the R5 would leapfrog the competition, and that it would be several generations ahead of what is currently out there. There was a huge sense of excitement, not only with Canon customers, but with the entire market. The competition was stunned. None of them imagined that Canon was capable of delivering such a camera so quickly after the EOS R. Then, just last week, at Canon's virtual press conference, they presented more video specifications of the R5. As I stated in a previous video, the R5 would have a modern, efficient codec, the H.265 codec. It would have 8K RAW, 10-bit, 422 in all modes, and offer uncropped 4K and 8K. Let's reflect on that for a minute. How many of us wanted a camera capable of 10-bit 422 and 4K and 1080? To have a modern, efficient codec and IBIS? To have at least 4K 60? Right here, Canon has exceeded my expectations. This is a list of my capabilities that I said I wanted in my next camera, and I put this in many of my videos. Sure, I wanted 4K 120, but I didn't expect Canon to deliver this. I expected detailed 4K 60 at best. But innovation didn't stop with video. The R5 is capable of 12 frames per second mechanical, 20 frames per second electronic. That's right up there with the 1DX Mark III, although I know the 1DX Mark III can give us 16 frames per second, but you get one advantage with the R5. You won't have to worry about lube on the sensor. It's the first Canon camera to offer IBIS. It will have dual SD card slots, but as a photographer, there's so much more unanswered. What's the buffer going to be like? How accurate will the autofocus be in continuous? And what about low light performance? The R5 today simply exceeds the 5D Mark IV in so many areas and has a decent inventory of RF lenses to keep most photographers happy. For the rest, slap on that $99 EF adapter and you have access to all the EF and EFS lenses. Forget the Canon of old. The cripple hammer is on vacation. Perhaps it's visiting Panasonic or Sony, I don't know. But the EOS R has already exceeded our expectations. It's blown them away. Canon knows they have a winner. They leaked the original specs and followed up with 3 more announcements, hyping the camera and getting the market excited. The R5 will not be overpriced. It will be priced to sell. It's going to be price competitive, and it's going to be priced to kill the competition. It's going to sell like crazy once it's available, as long as they can supply enough units. The R5, the EOS R5, is the most anticipated camera this month. But for Canon customers like me, this is the biggest announcement since the 5D Mark II, when Canon was the first to introduce 1080p video. May is going to be an amazing month. We're going to see the final specifications for the Canon EOS R5. Just think about that for a minute. We've been teased with 3 different leaks, well, not leaks, 3 different announcements from Canon. Now we're actually going to get those full-blown specifications. We're going to get a date, and we're going to get a price. We're also probably going to get leaked specifications for the R6. Sony's likely going to drop 1 camera this month, but guaranteed by the end of June we're probably going to see something, unless, of course, the global situation gets worse. Panasonic, we're not going to see the GH6 until September, October at the earliest, and Nikon might tease us with a Z5 or a Z8. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.